Hello there, my name is Dr. Maitland Hislop and welcome to the third in my series on resilience and hardening. Today I'm going to talk about personal resilience and some leadership qualities. And to help me I've drawn on 4 studies. One by Rochlin on high reliability organisations, a second by Grotberg from the International Resilience Project, a third from the US Army on soldier fitness, and a fourth from British Sport on how they develop elite athletes. So the first and possibly overriding requirement is to have a set of values. That's a set of personal values and a set of organisational values. The second is to be trusted and to belong to a trusted organisation. The third is to have some discipline, personal discipline and discipline within the organisation the individual finds him or herself within. The fourth is to be part of a teaching organisation. That is an organisation that shows people how to do things right. The fifth, to be part of a learning organisation, which is complementary to a teaching organisation but encourages individuals to be inquisitive and curious and find out how to learn for themselves. That implies the next 2 characteristics, which are a supportive organisation, both to the individual and mutually, and an organisation which has camaraderie. That is a togetherness, a feeling that nobody's going to let the next person down, and promotes a sense of togetherness within the organisation of which the individual is part of. So the 8th and 9th is to be well behaved and have good manners and to be respectful. This isn't to reflect any form of inferiority complex, but it's basically just to help individuals understand their position, to be respectful of like-minded people, to challenge people not of like mind, and therefore the next characteristic, to be confident enough to do that. Confidence is not complacency. Confidence is knowing what you can do, what you can't do, what the boundaries of your own capabilities are, and therefore the next characteristic, not be afraid to ask for help when required. Asking for help when required is part and parcel of being a confident individual or a confident leader. An example of that is employing people who are better at what they do than you are in a leadership context. In order to do those sorts of things, the next characteristic, the 11th, is to be able to communicate. Communication is important, upwards, sideways and downwards, and the ability to do that is important clearly in resilient individuals and good organisations. Solving problems, being resourceful, being opportunistic, they're the next 2 characteristics. Solving problems and being opportunistic. If you can solve problems and find the resources in order to solve those problems, and be opportunistic in identifying ways in which those problems can be solved, or opportunities to develop either yourself or the organisation, then those are good qualities to have. Being able to control things when things go wrong is the next one, and here we refer again to Clive Woodward's thinking correctly under pressure. So if you can think correctly under pressure, identify things which are going wrong during a crisis, or when things aren't going entirely to plan, either personally or within an organisation, then those are again important things to have. The final thing, of course, is to be creative. Resilient individuals are creative. They find ways to do things, and of course all the foregoing is part and parcel of being a creative individual. So those, according to the 4 studies at the top of the video, are the key 16 characteristics of resilient individuals and some of the key characteristics of good leadership. If we look on the obverse side of that, and we look at another set of studies, this time 3, the first of which is by Dixon on the psychology of military incompetence, the second by Ray on conservatism, and the third by Rosenberg on occupation and values, then we have another 16 characteristics which form the obverse or antithesis of our resilient characteristics. The first of these refer back to values again, and of course flexible values, or values which change according to the situation, is the first one. That's not to say people should not be flexible, but where you're coming from, the values, your personal position, should be well understood. One of the reasons why at the top of this series I included a personal value and position statement, so you knew where I was coming from in the context of both resilience and hardening. But if we look at how non-resilient people and poor leadership is displayed, then we have the following 15 characteristics to look out for, the first of which is prejudice. Prejudice against race, prejudice against gender, prejudice against change, all these sorts of things. The next is authoritarianism, largely displayed by leaders who are not confident, individuals who are not confident. Emotionally dependent is the next, the third of the 15. Emotional dependence in non-resilient individuals and leaders may seem strange, but often they're dependent on just one or two individuals, whereas a resilient person would have as we've seen, a trusted network, have a wider set of emotional contacts and strong emotional stability. Non-resilient people, poor leaders, also tend to be socially conformist and religiously orthodox. Religiously orthodox is a shorthand for some of the values that we might be discussing, or the way in which they believe or not believe in God or some sort of support structure. They have little empathy for other people, whereas resilient people have strong empathy. They're distrustful of the new and the strange, whereas resilient people can accept the new and the strange and look upon it opportunistically. They are uncreative and unimaginative and narrow-minded. Often they seek prestige for themselves or their organizations, which is not in line with where the organizations or the individuals should really be going. They are often ultra-masculine, whether they are male or female. These characteristics are well displayed, for example, by Trump and Putin. But if you go to places like Australia and New Zealand, then we have a much more cooperative and collegiate form of leadership. They are anti-intellectual, not understanding values, not understanding context, not understanding background, not part of a teaching or learning organization. So that's the antithesis, if you like, of personal resilience and good leadership. In short, we'll explore organizational resilience and organizational leadership in the next video, but maybe if I can refer you to a few films which might highlight these issues, the first of which would be Patch Adams, starring Robin Williams, where Adams is part of an organization which is clearly on the antithesis side of the arguments displayed here, and the dean of the school is the epitome of those antithetic characteristics. The second one is A Few Good Men, starring Jack Nicholson, where he displays many of the characteristics listed here on the antithetic side. And finally, 12 O'Clock High, starring Gregory Peck, which displays both these, the thesis of the good qualities of personal resilience and good leadership, and the antithesis of poor personal resilience and poor leadership. Fascinating World War II film, black and white, but deals with these issues in a very dramatic form. I'd like to thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you next time. You can subscribe to the channel below. In the meantime, thanks again. Bye bye now.